Hello, everybody. Let me lower this down. Okay, there we go. We should be live. We should be up and running. Hello, everybody. How are you? Let me get my walking stick. I'll be right with you. Sorry, I should have had this over here. Give me 1 second. I should have been a little bit more prepared before I hit that start button. But anyway, welcome aboard. Welcome for coming. I know I didn't give a lot of people a lot of notice. So my name is, for those that don't know who I am, my name is Vinny Craven. I have been I'm retired now, but I've been a mortgage broker for over 30 years. I've been a real estate investor for almost 40 years. I've been in the mortgage business almost 40 years. I own my own company for over 30 years. I've been a real estate investor for just as long. I owned everything from Section 8 up to multi-million-dollar homes as a buyer and holder. We did corporate rentals. I built multi-million-dollar homes. I owned a credit repair company. So my whole entire life, what I'm getting to is my whole entire life has been involved in this game, in this real estate game, everything. Okay, I've done thousands and thousands of transactions. I built custom multi-million-dollar homes. So everything, I've been involved in this game forever. So I'm retired now, and I teach at the Golden Triangle Academy. We're a school, right? And I have a twofold goal here at the Golden Triangle Academy, along with our meetups. And my apologies for anybody who's here on the meetups. I haven't been doing a lot of them because I lost my father not too long ago, and my mother is in hospice care, not doing too well. And obviously we're spending a lot of time with her with not that much time left. I mean, all the time that we have left, we're spending there. So I don't have a lot of time to be doing a lot of work things and, setting up seminars. But I can do some live streams, and I'm going to do more. And for those who are on the meetups, if anybody needs any help with any type of real estate, you can always give me a call. I'll be glad to help anybody with any questions about any deal, about anything. All you need to do to get a hold of me is text the word GOLDEN, G-O-L-D-E-N, to the number 21,000. That's my digital business card. It's got my cell phone number. I only got one. It's sitting there playing music, right? I'll be glad to help anybody out with any type of real estate situation they're in or they may have or what they want. We could possibly meet for a couple of hours one day. My office is in King of Prussia. I haven't been there in a while, but anybody that needs any help, please. I'm always here to help real estate because I love it. I have a passion for it. So the goal of the Golden Triangle Academy, the school, the reason why I set up a school is twofold. Number one, I can't stand the fake gurus. I can't stand that Pace Morley. I can't stand that Grant Cardone. I can't stand all these guys that are out there charging thousands of dollars for bullshit information. It's junk, it's crap, most of it doesn't work, it's just lousy, all right? That drives me nuts. And I want to help the everyday man and woman. I came from a blue-collar family, right? My dad was a truck driver, my mom was a homemaker, nobody helped me out in my career, so I give back, and our class is only $59 a month. You can cancel anytime, but it gives you access to everything. I live stream Monday night classes where you can ask questions, right? You have access to all the contracts that you could ever need. You get access to me. I have private classes that are held on Tuesday nights. So listen, we run the gamut. Anything you can possibly need, it's here. And I don't want to rip anybody off. I want to help as many people as I can, especially ones that don't have a lot of money. And then I'm going to expose all the fake gurus. So that's my goal to Golden Triangle Academy. And enough about me, enough about everything else. We talked about this is going to be an introduction into creative financing. So what is creative financing, right? Everybody wants to know creative financing. Nobody wants to use money, right? Some people might have bad credit. A lot of my students have no money. They have big credit. So I'm going to get into, I got to fix my fan real quick. I'm going to get into teaching you guys what creative financing is, how you can use it. Now listen, not all creative financing is bad, right? There's some stuff that works, right? But you got to be well versed in it. You need to know what you're talking about, okay? So let's just jump right into creative financing. So here we go. So what is creative financing? Oh, sorry, let me get my board on. So what is creative financing? Okay. You know what I'm going to do? Before we get into creative financing, before we get into that, I know what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to give everybody my pre-test that I give to everybody that comes into my class. How about I do that? All right, let's do that real quick. All right, here we go. I'm going to give you guys a test, right? And this has to do with creative financing. So here we go. So obviously, it's the name of the company. Boom, boom, boom. This is an older one though, right? So it'll still work. So pick any number between 0 and 9 that equals 4. Any number, right? And most people I know what they're going to tell us, right? They're going to give us this answer: 2 plus 2, 3 plus 1, and 0 minus 4. 99% of the people are going to give us that answer: 2 plus 2, 3 plus 1, and 0 plus 4. And why does everybody give that same answer? Because it's the easiest answer, right? Super easy. So if you were to ask me, Vinny, hey, when I know my mortgage company, I want to go buy a house. My 2 plus 2 answers: well, you got to have good credit, you got to have a job, you got to have money down, right? You got to qualify with your debt to income ratio. That's your 2 plus 2 answer. So when you hear me say things tonight, 2 plus 2, just know that I'm saying your everyday conforming loan, right? Your Fannie Mae, your Freddie Mac, your VA, FHA, USDA, right? Your conforming stuff, that's 2 plus 2, okay? So that's what that is. It's the easiest thing that you can say. Okay, here we go here. This is problem number 2, okay? Now this, oh shit. I apologize, I didn't put it on the right one. My apologies. Well, anyway, the 2 plus 2 is easy. Here's a test for you, right? Now this one here might be a little bit harder for anybody. So this one is, can you touch all 9 dots using only 4 lines, right? 4 lines. You cannot lift your pen off the paper. You can only use 4 lines, right? I give this to everybody, and I want to know, right, can it be done, yes or no? How many people think it can be done, right? How many people think it can't be done? And I give a lot of people a lot of time to do this, but most people are not going to get the answer. They don't think it can be done. And the reason why I do this, I'm going to just show you real quickly how it can be done. There's line 1, there's line 2, line 3, and line 4, right? Super easy, right? Very easy, 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 easy. Now, most people I give this test to, they can sit there for hours and days, and they never get it, right? They try and figure it out. They don't understand it. Now, the reason why I gave you this test is this reason, okay? People want to know. Most people want to know. I'm just deleting the stuff off my board. People want to know, hey, can you buy real estate with no money down, right? And you're going to hear other people say it's a scam, it's no good. It's not a scam. You just have to know how to do it. Just like that little test over there that I just gave you, right? You can sit there forever and try and figure it out, maybe figure it out. But if somebody comes along like a mentor or tutor and just shows it to you, that was very easy. The same with creative financing, okay? You might think it's hard because you don't know how it works. But if you have somebody like me teaching it to you, or somebody else who knows it inside and out, right? It's not that hard. It becomes easy. But here's the one thing that I'm going to tell you, all right? There's a couple things about creative financing that you should know. Before you even get started or anything like that, the first thing you should do is always put yourself in, every time you do a deal, put yourself in the seller's shoes and ask yourself, would I do this deal? Would I do this deal? And if you say no, you wouldn't do the deal, then most likely the seller wouldn't do the deal either. So you have to put 2 and 2 together that way. Would I do this deal? No, I wouldn't do this deal. Okay, the seller wouldn't do the deal either. Okay, so make sure that you think of it that way, all right? The other thing is, when it comes to creative financing, right, don't get discouraged because you're gonna get rejected a lot of times, okay? You're gonna get rejected a lot, but that's okay, right? Because all your rejection, it's just knowledge. It's just learning more and more how to get around problems. Okay, so what is creative financing? Well, creative financing is nothing more than the seller is going to help you finance the property or control the property instead of going to the bank. Now, let me show you what I mean. I'll do it on the little board, then I'll get up to the big board. I get up and down a lot because I got a bad back and a bad knee. And if I sit too long or stand too long, my back hurts, my knee hurts. It's a pain in the ass, and I apologize. Okay, so when we talk about creative financing, well, first let's do this. We have our normal, what we call our 2+2 financing, right? And this is our Fannie Mae, our Freddie Mac, our FHA, VA, USDA, right? I'll even put jumbo loans in there, and I'll put non-QM, okay? Now, I'm in the process of teaching my kids the mortgage business. My kids just got out of high school, about 2 of them. I'm in my process of teaching them the mortgage business and this creative financing stuff, okay? But before I get even into the creative financing stuff, I'm teaching them all this stuff here, right? All the rules and regulations, loan to value guidelines, how each program works. And the reason why, because when you get over here to creative financing, okay, this is just a fancy word for seller financing, okay? Where the seller is going to help you control the property or own the property. Over here, let me put a line here. Over here on 2+2, there's banks involved. Meaning that you want to go get a 30-year loan, you want to go buy a condo, owner-occupied house, you go to the bank. You've got money that you want to go buy an investment property. Okay, you go to the bank, they give you a loan. All right, now obviously there's a little bit more to it, but basically you're using a bank to finance you. Over here, there are no banks. So obviously, if there's no banks involved, there's what? There's no qualifying. Now, what do I mean by no qualifying? Meaning, no credit report. So, whether you got good or bad credit, it doesn't matter. No W-2s. No pay stubs. No bank statements. Right? So you don't have to show any of your income, which means what? No debt to income ratio. So it doesn't matter. If you don't know what a debt to income ratio is, it's just how much property can you qualify with your debt, right? So the formula is your principal and interest payment, PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. That, plus you add all your monthly debt, just like your car loans, student loans, no PICO, no cell phone, stuff you signed for, right? And then you divide that by your gross monthly income. That number has to be 40 or below. Obviously, there's exceptions. So, but you want to create a financing, you don't need any of that. No W-2s, no bank stamps, no pay stubs, no any of that. No credit report, like we said. Also, there's going to be no verifications. No one's going to call your work to see if you work there, okay? There's no 4506, meaning no one's going to pull your tax returns. That's all the stuff that the bank does, okay? So now, creative financing, seller financing, no credit, no income, no qualifications, no anything. So that makes it easy for those that may not have a job, that may have bad credit, that don't make a lot of money. Now, doesn't mean that you have to have, or you don't have to have it, right? People who have good credit, people that have money, they also use creative financing. Because let me tell you something. I don't care how much money you have. Sooner or later, you're going to run out of it. Okay? Sooner or later, you're going to run out of money. All right? It doesn't matter when, but you're going to run out of money. Okay? So, let's talk about creative financing and some of the methods. And if anybody has any questions about anything, put it in the chat and I'll answer anything. Now remember, this is just an introduction of what creative financing is. So all you got to get out of this so far is that there are no banks involved up front. You don't need any banks, which means you don't have to qualify for anything. Okay, let me find my pen. So what are some of the methods of creative financing? Okay, now I'm going to throw this first one in there. It's not really creative finance. I don't want red. Let's get a better color. Let's do blue. Let's do a nice shade of blue. Okay. Blue, I said. What the hell is going on here? There we go. I'm going to put this in here because I want to talk about this a little bit later, assumable loans. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I want to show you the difference of an assumable loan and subject to financing. Okay? So subject to financing, we're going to get into, I'm going to touch on all of these, all right? You've got purchase money mortgage. Purchase money mortgages. You got wraparounds, or wraps for short, right? Short for wraparounds. I don't know why they call it that. It's so stupid, but we'll get into it. I'm going to teach you what it is. I'm going to give you the overview. All right, so you got wraparounds, purchase money mortgage. You got lease purchase option. You got regular options, okay, which is different than the lease purchase options. You got regular options. So subject to purchase money, wraps, lease purchase option, and then my favorite, contract for deed, also called installment sales contract. Okay, so here you go. Here's your introduction into creative financing. You have assumable loans, subject to financing, purchase money mortgage, wraps, lease purchase options, regular options, and a contract for deed. Okay, these are some of the things that you could do without the banks. All right, and I'm going to touch on each and every one of them, give it to you. Then what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a video on all of these and get deeper into it. Okay, so the first one I'm going to do for you is this one right here. Lease purchase options, okay? And the reason why I'm going to start there is because this is a realtor's favorite method, okay? Most of the realtors use this method because, I don't know, it's the only thing they know. And trust me when I tell you this, like I said, I owned a mortgage company for a long time, and they didn't know how to write a lease purchase option. They have no clue what the rules and regulations are. I can't tell you how many lease purchases I had to rewrite for them just to make sure they would get it right. And even that, most of these don't go through. So they're not even really worth the paper they're written on. So what is a lease purchase option? Okay, it's a two-part contract. The first part is the lease, okay? So it's a lease, which makes you as a buyer nothing more than a glorified tenant. That's it. And most leases, like when you're doing a lease purchase, they're going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at you, where you're going to have to take care of everything, maintain everything, right? And you're nothing but a tenant. I'm not a big fan of lease purchase options. Part two of it is the purchase option, okay? Now, I'm sticking as the buyer side. We'll get into the seller side later on, where if you want to do, I know a lot of the gurus are going to say, do subject to financing up front and then resell it as a lease purchase option on the back end. Dumbest thing I ever heard, okay? If you're real estate, and I'm going to tell you why. If you ever owned real estate in your life, which I have, I've owned hundreds of properties, okay? Everything from Section 8 to $2 million. And here's what I'm going to tell you, okay? The people that do a lease purchase option fit into three categories, okay? Category number one on a lease purchase, right? Number one. They have no money, okay? They have no money. So what happens? They say, well, let's do a lease purchase and then give me credit every month for my down payment, okay? Now, if you don't know the rules and the regulations of a lease purchase, this is going to completely go right in the toilet. Why? Because here's the rules. The only credit that you get for a lease purchase option, credit towards your down payment, is anything that you pay over and above fair market value. So for instance, you get a house, it's $100,000. You want to buy it, but you got no money. And you say, we'll pay they want $1,000 a month under this lease purchase. But the fair market rent is $1,000. And you pay for 2 years and they say, look, we're going to give you $200 a month credit. And you go to get it, you go to a mortgage broker, next thing you know, they say, wait, we did a fair market rent analysis, okay? And guess what? It's $1,000 a month. You get zero credit. And then the seller will come back, well, I'll knock $5,000 off the sales price. Well, that's great. You still don't have a down payment. So they never work for those people that have no money, okay? Because they don't know how to write them up properly. You have to take whatever the down payment is and then divide that by the amount of months that are in your lease, and then that's what you have to pay over and above fair market rent. So it's just like putting money in a savings account. Okay, that's number one. The next ones are people that have bad credit. Okay, bad credit. Now, if you ever owned real estate, which I have again, and go ahead and rent your property out to people that have bad credit, and see how long that lasts. Listen, I've given so many people second chances. I got bad credit. I said, okay, I'll roll the dice, right? And they'll pay for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. If you get 3 months, good. You get 4, you're living large. If you get 5 or 6, count your blessings. Because after that, you're not getting paid. They're going to, oh, my mom died. Oh, my sister died. Oh, my dog died, right? Everybody died. Oh, listen, don't worry. The check's in the mail. I got you covered. I got you taken care of. And it never comes. Then they ghost you. Then you never hear from them. Then they don't want to leave. And then you got to try and get them out. Then it's a pain in the ass. And then it's a nightmare. Okay? Don't believe me? Ask anybody that's owned real estate and rent it to people with bad credit and see how it turned out. Trust me. That's happens more than it doesn't happen. Okay? So, and that's why when the gurus talk about doing a lease purchase option and getting a down payment, but they got shit credit, yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with that. Trust me. I've been through all of this. It ain't happening. Okay, so that's the second. The last people are the self-employed. The self-employed, okay? They write everything off. They can't show any income, so they can't qualify for a loan. They can if they want to do a DSCR and put 15% down, right? Try and do that, but pay super high interest rates, right? Or do a bank statement loan. But for the most part, they don't want to do that. So you got your self-employed. Now, why doesn't the self-employed work? What happens to them? Okay. If you ever dealt with self-employed people, they don't like paying the federal government. So now you give them a 2-year lease. Maybe they really need a 3-year lease because they have to have 2 years tax returns. So they need a 3-year lease, which most sellers don't want to give. But let's say they give it. I'm telling you right here and now, they're not going to bump up their income, pay the federal government all the taxes that they have to pay to qualify to buy the house. So you can flush that one down the toilet. So when I tell you lease purchase options don't work, they don't work. And I mean to the fact that they like going and actually closing the deal. I shit you, let me tell you this one. I'm with one of my students. He's a realtor, 22, 23 years old, makes over 100 grand a year. He's got a bunch of properties now. He's doing good for himself, right? Gets on the phone with another realtor. Pace Morbley fan, right? Subject to. We'll get to that. And I'm bad-mouthing Pace and I'm bad-mouthing Subject to. I'm not a fan of it, but listen, whatever floats your boat. You want to do, fine. So she goes in there and she talks about, well, I'm just going to do lease purchase options. And I said, well, who are you doing it with? And she goes, well, I go after people with bad credit, but they have money. I'm like, okay, are you giving credit repair? How are you doing that? She goes, no. When they fail, I'm just going to kick them out and do it all over again. Okay, so you're going to be a scumbag landlord, right? Scumbag landlord, where you're just going to take people's money, hope that they don't pay you so you can kick them out and do it all again. Now listen, if that's what you want to do, go right ahead. But that's so low scumbag stuff, it's unbelievable. And guess what? If you think they're going to take that laying down, just you taking their money and kicking them out, you don't think you're going to have a fight on your hand? That's just people that say stupid shit that never bought property in their life, okay? So lease purchase options. If I'm a seller, I don't mind doing them as a seller, right? As a buyer, I wouldn't do it as a buyer. I would use other methods. Now, the good news is that you can get into a lease purchase with very little down. Most of the time, when the seller does it, right, when you get into it, they usually want first month, last security deposit, right? Now, if you get into guru world, right, they're gonna want 5%, 10% as an option fee, yada, yada, yada. And listen, I'm going to do a video on structuring all these deals. This one is just kind of like an introduction in how they work, all right? So there you go. So a lease purchase option, it's what the realtors know. As a buyer or as an investor, kind of stay away from them. I'm not a big fan of them, but if you have to, you can get into it kind of cheap, right? It's a cheap way to get into a property, especially if it's going to be owner-occupied. I'll say it's not bad. But please know, if you're going to use a lease purchase option to buy an owner-occupied house, right, and then turning it into an investment property, just know the rules and regulations. Know how it works. Know if it's credit, if it's money as a down payment that you need, just know find out what the fair market rent is and make sure you pay over and above that. Work out your credits. It's simple math, okay? So it works if you understand them. That's, I guess, what I'm saying. Not a big fan of them, but okay. All right, let's go to this one next. Let's do this one next. That's a purchase money mortgage, okay? That's this one here. Purchase money mortgage. Now, this is actually true. This is real seller financing right here. This is real seller financing, meaning that when you go to get a house, right, put your 5% down or 3.5 FHA, right, give your W-2s, your pay stubs, your bank statements, go make settlement. You're doing a purchase money mortgage through a bank, okay? You're doing it through a bank. What happens? You sign a note, which is the promissory note, the IOU, right? You sign a mortgage, which is the bank's security, okay? That's how they can put a lien on the property. Then you sign a HUD-1, or now called the closing disclosure, and that's just the money, okay? So it's the same thing as a bank. Now, we live in a judicial state, meaning that we actually have the deed to our property when we buy a house. It's not like a car where the bank holds the title. No, we live in a judicial state, so we get the deed, okay? And the bank, who's going to lend you the money, have you sign a note, promissory note, the IOU, the mortgage is their security. So what they're going to do is put a lien on the property, so they'll be in the first lien position. Then if you stop paying it, their way of going about getting their house back is they're going to go down to the courthouse, file for a judgment against you for the amount that you owe, plus any past due, plus interest, plus attorney fees, plus everything else that they could throw on it. They got to go through the court system, right, to get that judgment. And to satisfy, and when they get that judgment, the way they satisfy it is through a sheriff's sale, okay? So, purchase money mortgage, note, mortgage, HUD-1, just like if you went to a bank. Now, if you do it with a seller, it's the same thing. You will create from the seller the note, the mortgage, and the HUD. But the seller just takes place of the bank. That's it. The seller's now in the bank's position. So they'll put a lien against the house, and the seller will be the bank. That's all that it is. Same thing as with a bank. Here's the difference. You can negotiate everything with the seller. Negotiate no down payment. Right? Negotiate 40 years, 30 years, interest only, 10-year balloon, 5-year balloon. Negotiate all the terms of the loan. And now, if you didn't understand any of that lingo, it's okay. We'll get back to it later, okay? A balloon is just when it's all due in full. So let's say we sign a purchase money mortgage, $100,000 loan with a seller, right? You sign a note, you sign a mortgage, they sign the deed over to you, okay? And they does a 5-year balloon. That means in 5 years it's all due, the whole thing, okay? So that's what a purchase money mortgage is. The seller becomes the bank. That's it. Very simple, very easy. Now, most of the time, the sellers that do a purchase money mortgage, they do it when it's free and clear, when there's no liens against the property. Why? Well, because they're worried about the due on sale clause if they have a lien against it. Now, if they do have a lien against the property, meaning they're paying a mortgage, right? It's not free and clear. They have a lien, a loan against it. Well, then that's when it's called a wraparound. Let's see if I can erase this. Okay? So now, they have a lien against the property. So now they call it a wrap or a wraparound. You still sign a note, a mortgage, and a closing disclosure. You still sign those documents, but now the reason why they call it a wrap, let's just take a quick look at it, right? So here's the house. Okay, and the seller, he has $100,000 that he owes, and his PITI is $1,000 PITI. And then he sells it to you, right, for $200,000 and $2,000 a month, okay? So what they're technically saying, okay, is that this loan wraps around this loan, and this $2,000 pays this $1,000. All of that it is, in reality, it's just subordinate financing or junior financing, right? It's just going into this second lien position. It's going behind the first mortgage, okay? You're not paying it off. Now, here's the problem with that. If the bank finds out that you did this, right, they can call the note due. Why? Because the deed was transferred from one to the other, right? So let me just show you this. So in a purchase money mortgage, okay, so a purchase money mortgage and a wrap, okay? This is the seller, this is the buyer. The deed goes from here to here, okay? The deed is going to transfer, okay? So the deed transfers. So if they have a lien and the bank finds out, it's just like subject to, they can call the note due. And that's the only difference between a purchase money mortgage and a wraparound, is that purchase money mortgage doesn't have a lien and a wraparound does have a lien, so the loans wrap around each other, one pays off the other one. That's all that that means, okay? So that's a wraparound mortgage, okay? And that's done quite often, the wraps, right, when somebody has a loan. So let's go in to the next one. Now, you'll see a lot of this stuff. Let's see what we'll do now. All right, let me do assumable loan real quick. Okay, oh, we got options. All right, I put an assumable loan up here. Now, this is not seller or creative financing, but I want to teach it to you real quick, okay? Let's sit down and I'll just tell it to you. An assumable loan, there's assumable loans out there. FHA and VA are assumable. Fannie Mae did away with them, I think, back in the 80s. Don't quote me on when they actually got rid of them, but they got rid of them a while ago. But there are loans out there that are still assumable. Now, the way that works is this. Let me put it on my little board here. I can show it to you. So let's erase this here. Okay, so the way that an assumable loan works is like this. Okay, and the issue with this here is this is not really seller or creative financing. So here you have the seller here, right? And then this is you over here, the buyer. And let's say here's our house, and it's got a fair market value of, say, $100,000. And let's say $80,000 is owed. Hell, we can even do $95,000. So no money changes hand. Let's do that. Okay. We're going to say $95,000 is owed. And let's just say it's $1,000 PITI. I know it's a lot, but whatever. Just give you an example, easy math. Okay. The seller, let's say, has a 3% interest rate on it, and there's 27 years left. Okay. Let's assume interest rates, let's say they're 8 or 9%. Right? Maybe even 7, 8, 9%. And the seller wants to get rid of the house and you want to buy the house. You have good credit, you got a job, right? And you say, look, I'll buy your house, I want to assume it. So what happens? Okay, so you, the buyer, you're going to go to the bank that has this lien. And you're going to go and get approved for an assumable loan. Okay, you want to go and you want to assume it. So you call the bank, they qualify you, right? And they say, okay, you're approved to assume the loan. Now, usually, very little closing costs. It used to be like a point. I doubt, I don't know what the closing costs are now, but you get approved for it. So what happens? Okay, this loan, all of it, now goes in your name. Okay? So they're going to change it from the seller. He's gone. He leaves. Out. Done. He has no obligation left. Okay? All the paperwork is out of his, her, or their name. Gone. Okay? It all goes into your name. It's now your loan at $95,000 at $1,000 a month PITI. You assumed that loan, okay? Which is great, fine, fantastic, all right? Now, by the way, just so I can show you something so you don't get caught up in this guru world, the act of changing that paperwork, the act of doing that is called a novation, okay? I see a lot of the goofballs out there in YouTube world talk about novations and learn how to be an investor, and the new hottest thing is novations. No, it's not. A novation is just the act of changing paperwork, all right? So they found out that wholesaling is just baloney, okay, right? Doesn't work. That does work in certain areas, like in the inner cities and down in resort areas. It does work. You can definitely make money wholesaling. I'm not saying you won't. It's just in certain areas that you can, and you got to get a little bit lucky. So the act of changing the paperwork, the act of changing that paperwork from the seller to the buyer. The seller no longer has any obligations. It's all to the buyer. The act of doing that is a novation, okay? Another way a novation works is like if I was renting an apartment, right? Just so you guys understand what a novation is. If I was renting an apartment and I had to leave and the owner was a stickler and said, no, you got to continue to pay. And I said, well, listen, I have somebody who will take over my lease, but I want it to go in their name. The seller says, sure, we'll do that. So the remainder of the lease goes in this new person's name. Well, the act of doing that, the act of changing the paperwork and the paperwork getting changed, that's a novation, okay? That's what that means. So don't get caught up in guru world what novations are, okay? So that's what it is. So now I put the assumable loan up there just so you understand, because we're going to get into subject to financing, where the assumable, you got the banks, you went there, the bank approved it, you qualified, boom, 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 you're done, okay? So that I just wanted to show what that is, because when we get to this next one, this subject to financing, this is where, let me just rewrite it. This is where you're not using any bank, okay? So same situation. Here's Mr. Seller who can't sell. Here's their house. Fair market value, 100,000. And I know I'm using super low numbers, but it's easy math for me. I can only count my fingers and my toes. They owe 90,000. PITI, we'll say 500, okay, for easy math. And then here you are over here. Okay? Now, subject to financing is very, very, very simple. All you're doing is taking over their payment, okay? There's nothing more to it. So, this here, you're going to start making the payments. This loan is staying in their name. Okay? All you're going to do, now there's different ways of doing this, okay? If you do the guru way, they're going to tell you to do what is called a quit claim deed. Okay, that's just a down, dirty way of doing things. It's quick, it's easy. It's usually done for divorces. And what that does is that'll transfer the deed over to you, okay? Called a quit claim deed, all right? It's just easy, it's simple. There's no protection in it. Now, to do this the right way, you would get a warranty deed and you would get title insurance. Make sure you know what's on title, you know who's on title, because you got to get everybody to sign, right? So now, what about this $10,000 that the seller may or may want, right? Okay, well, there's a few things you can do. You can pay the seller the $10,000, right, up front. You can negotiate it to zero, right? Don't pay them anything, just take over their loan, right? Tell them, that you got $10,000 worth of work. I'm going to cover your closing costs, okay? Whatever. It's negotiating. You can have the seller take back a second, meaning that the seller will finance the $10,000. If they're stuck on a 10 grand, they'll do it, but you got to pay them $10,000, okay? So you can have the seller take back a second, meaning that you create terms, you create a note, a mortgage, and you create a HUD. $10,000, interest only, with a 5-year balloon, right? Or 0 interest, 5-year balloon, and it's paid off in 5 years. It's all this stuff is negotiated through you and the seller. All this creative financing stuff. That's why you should really be well versed in how all this stuff works. Okay? Now, part of the reason why I gave you that 2 + 2 question in the beginning is this. You have to know when you're going to pay this guy off. Because this guy's, now, listen, they're shit out of luck. You own the house, lock, stock, and barrel, right? And they can't force you to refinance and get the loan out of their name, right? So, but if they want to go buy a house, they have to qualify with that loan in their name. Now, most gurus are going to say, no, you don't. No. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. You do. And I've had a fight with one of the gurus that says, no. If you can prove that the seller, that somebody else is making the payment for the seller, right, that you don't qualify. Well, I can tell you, I think I have it here, the Fannie Mae guidance. And what I'm talking about is this. Let's say the seller agrees to do this, right? And he signs his deed over to you, and you're making the payments of $500, but the loan stays in his name, or her name, or their name. But they want to go buy a house in 2 years, right? They say, look, in 2 years, I want to buy a house, so I hope you have this paid off. But it's not paid off. And they call up and say, look, we want to buy this house. And I had a guru that literally told me, just show Fannie and Freddie that you're making the payments. I'm saying, that's not true. That's not how it works. And I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to prove it to you, right? I think I have it here or have it in that file over there. And let me just show you. So again, don't make this any harder than what it is. This here, I have it right here. This is very simple, subject to financing. All you're doing is taking over the payments. That's it. Okay, if you do it the right way, you would get title insurance and get a warranty deed. Now, you're going to have closing costs that are involved with this because you got transfer tax, because you got to transfer the deed, right? Oh, excuse me. You got to record the deed. I would do a home inspection in the worst case scenario, right? I would definitely do a home inspection. And if you give me 1 second, I'm going to give you some other things that you should do. So just bear with me 1 second. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you, right? I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So let's say the seller agrees to this, right? But the seller says, I want to buy a house in 2 years, all right? I want to buy a house in 2 years. And most gurus, well, you can do it as long as you can prove that somebody else is paying the mortgage. Now, if you bear with me for just a second, I'm going to pull it up on the handy-dandy board here, and I'm going to show you what's true and what's not true, all right? Okay, so here I have it. So let me... Okay. Now, some of it's cut off a little bit, so just bear with me a little bit, all right? Let me see if I can... I got to move it up here. Hold on. I know you can't see it yet, but okay. Now, what I'm going to show you, this is directly from Fannie Mae's website, okay? This is called Debt Paid by Others. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you this. I'm going to start out right here. Let me put it in red. Right here is where we're going to start, okay? Now, this, what I have circled, is non-mortgage debt. Car loan, student loan, things like that, okay? Now, when a borrower on a non-mortgage debt, but is not the party who's actually repaying the debt, they may exclude the monthly payment from the recurring monthly obligations, right? if things happen, non-mortgage debts. If you can prove that the third party is paying it, like student loans, installment loans, revolving. Now, I'm not talking about an installment sales loan. I'm talking like an installment loan, like a cell phone bill. That's anything you pay on terms, car loan, stuff like that, okay? So if you can prove that somebody else is paying it, then yes, non-mortgage debt does apply, and you don't have to qualify with it. Now, look at this. Is obligated on a mortgage debt, okay? When the borrower, this is the person who gave away their house to you, and now they want to go buy another house, but the underwriter's saying you don't qualify, and you're telling them, oh yeah, you just got to prove it. Let's see why, okay? When the borrower is obligated on a mortgage debt, but is not the party who is actually repaying the debt, you're repaying the debt. You may exclude the full monthly PITI from the borrower's recurring obligations. Big word here. This is a huge word for just 2 letters, if. If. Now, I'm going to read the last one first. Let's start down here. The borrower is not using the rental income from the property. All right, well, obviously, let's say I'm the borrower and I gave you my house subject to. Well, I'm not getting any of the rental income, so that's fine. That works. Okay, let's go to the next one. There are no delinquencies in the last 12 months. Okay, well, you paid it on time, so we're good. No delinquencies. Let's look at this last one. And again, this is right from Fannie Mae. You can look it up yourself. The party, that means you, making the payments, right there. The party making the payments, that means you, the investor. Again, is, look at that big word for 2 little letters, is obligated on the mortgage debt. Is obligated on the mortgage debt. What the hell does that mean? This is what it means. It means that you, the investor, would have to be on the mortgage and the note originally when it was signed. You're not. You just took it over, right? This is really used for divorcees, okay? One person gets divorced from another person, okay? The husband, he divorces the wife. The wife gets the house. The husband gets a new trophy wife, wants to buy a new house, right? Did a quick claim deed, wife's paying it on time, no big issues, but he's on the mortgage loan. He's on there. They say, we can exclude it because she's paying it. You're not on it. So any guru that's telling you that just show them that, they don't have a clue what they're talking about, okay? So now, when you do subject to, you have to worry about a few things. You have to worry about the seller wanting to qualify for another loan at some point in their time and you not paying it off. That's number one. You have to worry about the due on sale clause. What's that? Due on sale clause is when the bank finds out that you transferred the deed and didn't pay off the mortgage, they're going to foreclose on the property. Well, let me take a step back. They're going to call the note due. They're not just going to be, oh, nobody cares about, yes, the banks only care about getting their money. I'm not going to disagree with that, okay? The banks care about getting their money. But guess what this guy went through? Get this guy right here, when he got this loan, guess what he had to do? He had to sign about a 5-page application. It used to be 3 pages, right? I don't know what it is now. I retired. But I saw him. I was like, what the hell is that? It's a new application. What the hell, right? But basically, 3 or 4-page application, depending on how many assets and liabilities you have, right? 3-page application, maybe more now, okay? All personal information about you, personal information. Then they pull your credit, not once but twice. They pull it at the time of the application, then they pull it the day before closing, just to make sure you didn't add any new debt or you missed any payments. So you pull your credit twice. Then they ask for 3 months bank statements, all your pages. They ask for 2 years of your W-2s. They ask for 1 month of your pay stubs. Then they make you sign a 4506 or an 8821. Now, what's a 4506 or an 8821? That's a form where they go to the IRS and they pull your tax return. So if you go to Uncle Johnny down in the corner, say, Uncle Johnny in the barbershop, listen, tell them I work for you, all right? They're going to call, not once, but twice. Once at the time of the application, or once you get your application within a few days, and either the day before or the day of closing, they're going to call and verify. Now, if you're not working there and you're not getting pay stubs, they're going to pull your tax returns and they're going to see it, and then you committed fraud, right? So there's no more getting around that kind of stuff, okay? So they had to sign a 4506 or an 8821, get 2 phone verifications. So yeah, they care who they lend their money to, okay? They didn't lend it to you. They lent it to that guy over there. So if you think they just care about their money, you got another thing coming. And here's something I'm in the process of doing. I've been calling and recording, making a recording of it, the top 10 mortgage servicers in the country for mortgage loans. And I'm trying to get the managers on the phone and ask them if I could do subject to with any of their clients. You'll be shocked when you hear, they're going to tell you no, okay? So again, if they find out, they're going to call the note due, which means you got to pay them within 30, they want 30 days. And then if not, they're going to start the foreclosure process. Doesn't mean they can get it in 30 days. It means they got to go through the process. So you got time. But what are you going to do? If you can't refinance, then you know what I hear? Oh, just give the deed back. Is that the kind of investor you want to be? Just give the deed back? Oh my God. It's insane what I hear about this subject to financing. Now listen, I'm not saying it's completely horrible, but it's good in a couple of senses. If A, just call the bank up, because if they give you written permission, right, and they say you can do it, then you do it. And that's what it says. Let me see if I have it in the file here. I can read it to you, right? Let me see. This is in the note, right? This is a note from an actual loan that was just taken, okay? Let me read this to you. And I would put it on the board, but it's so small when it got copied. I'm going to read it to you, okay? If any or part of the property or interest in the property is sold or transferred, or the borrower or person interest in the borrower is sold or transferred, without the lender's prior written consent, the lender may require immediate payment in full of all sums secured by the security instrument. However, this option shall not be exercised by lender, and such exercise is prohibited by law. Meaning they just can't call the note due for any stupid reason, right? You had to do something where they can, okay? If the lender exercises this option, and trust me, if they find out that you did it, they're going to exercise their option, right? They're going to call the note due because they didn't lend you the money, they lent it to that guy. The lender shall give the borrower notice of acceleration. It's called an acceleration clause, right? The notice shall provide a period of not less than 30 days from the date of the notice given in accordance with Section 15, which borrower must pay all sums secured by the security instrument. If borrower fails to pay these sums, that means all of them, prior to the expiration of this period, that's the 30 days, the lender may invoke any remedies permitted by the security instrument without further notice or demand on the borrower. That means they can skip the demand. They're going to foreclose on you. That's what they're going to do. Okay. Now you're going to have gurus that twist like pretzels, become the property manager, and do this guy, put it in a trust. Listen, sometimes they don't find out. Okay, good for you. That's fine. But the only time I would ever do a subject to financing deal, right, is if I knew I had the means necessary to refinance at a moment's notice, okay? So if you can refinance in a moment's notice, by all means, do a subject to. Why? Because it's good when rates are low, because most houses nowadays, they may have a 2 or 3% interest rate on there, right? And if you can take that subject to, and then you got to figure out the equity, okay, right? You can either give it to them, you could borrow somehow and give it to them, or you could do a seller second, okay? Then okay. But just rest assured that you have to be able to have the means necessary to refinance and get it paid off before they foreclose. Now, it's not within 30 days, by the way. That's when, if you don't pay them in that 30 days, they can start the process, okay? And then you got a little bit of time before they will foreclose on you. So you got time. So if you have the means to do it, by all means do it. And this is another reason why when I teach anybody in real estate and real estate investing, I don't just teach creative financing and subject to financing. You learn all the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac guidelines, right? Owner-occupied versus non-owner-occupied, right? Purchase versus refinance, cash out, no cash out, right? What are all the LTV guidelines, meaning loan to value? How much can you borrow, right? If you have a 2-unit and non-owner-occupied, what can I do as a rate and term, or what can I do as a cash out? You learn all of that stuff so that if you need it to use it, you know it like the back of your hand. And then if you didn't know it off the back of your hand, right, I give you a book like this, right, a binder that has all the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac guidelines in there. Not all of them, but the ones that you need, right? Also about PMI and all this other stuff. So you have all that stuff, right? So like all the guidelines I just talked about paying it off. So, right, your PMI guidelines, all the different things you learn, right? The LTV guidelines, all that stuff will be in your binder, okay? So, subject to. It's not that hard, but here's the thing. It's not hard to do. Let me give you the pros and the cons of this, right? And the reason why I'm doing it is because I know a lot of gurus on YouTube love this thing. I hate it, to be honest with you, but let me just do this for you. And by the way, if anybody wants to do this and don't know how, call me. I'll help you. I'll walk you through it. No charge. I won't charge you. I'll help you. All right, there's page 2 it. Let me see here. What I'm going to do is kind of give you a couple little pointers on if I can find in my file here, right? If it's not in here. By the way, this subject to, right? This stuff has been around forever, okay? This is nothing, by the way, it's not illegal, and it's been around forever, okay? It's not in my file there. Let me just take a quick look here. Give me 1 second, everybody. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them down there. I will answer anything. I'll answer anything that you have. So if you have any questions, let me know what they are. On any subject, by the way, I'll answer anything about any subject. Just bear with me 1 second. Let me see if I have what I wanted to. Okay. All right. So I have a couple of notes that I wrote down for you because I know a lot of people want to learn about subject to. So here's my notes. Let me make this a little bit bigger for everybody. Oh, sorry about that. How do I do this? There we go. Okay. All right. So, subject to, keep it simple. Do not make this difficult. All you're doing is taking over the seller's mortgage payment. That's it. Here's the pros. There are no banks involved, so you got no credit or no income needed, right? You're going to get better than current rates most of the time. Not all the time, but most of the time, you're going to get better rates. You're going to get a shorter term than going to get a new loan. Again, why would you do a 30-year? Well, if you could take over somebody's loan, either through a suitable or subject to, you're going to get, instead of going to a bank and getting a 30-year loan at 7%, you can get a loan that's got 25 years, 20 years, 23 years at 3%, 4%, 5%. So it's better. But again, make sure you have the means to refinance if you do this method. You have no risk. This is the one thing that I do love. I have to be honest with you. You have no risk. Why? Because there's nothing in your name. The loan stays in the seller's name. So you have no risk, okay? That's a nice thing right there. Okay, here's the cons. It's not a no money down transaction. You need at least, you got to pay some minimum closing costs, okay? So, and when I say no money down, it could be no money down. It's just, I mean, no money, right? Because the great Pace Morbley, I put not one penny out of my pocket. Well, how did you transfer the deed? How did you record the deed? Did you even do a home inspection? Listen, if you're going to buy any property, trust me, do a home inspection. Well, I'm going to get to this, but trust me, do a home inspection, okay? So another con is that due on sale clause. Because if the banks find out that you did this, they're going to be pissed off. The loan stays in the seller's name, which doesn't make the seller very happy. And the seller has to qualify with the old loan in their name. I just showed that to you, right? I showed that to you, where they have to qualify in their own name. Now, what are some of the things that you should do prior to doing a subject to deal? Actually, like closing on the deal. Number one, you should pull the title. Find out everybody that's on that deed, because all of them need to sign that agreement of sale, okay? Pull title, because you want to see what liens they have against the property as well. Do a home inspection. In my opinion, still absolutely do a home inspection. Because listen, even though you might be getting it for no money, you might be walking into a cluster F that the house is dilapidated, it's got termites, it's got mold, right? Come on. And I know you got no risk at it, but do yourself a favor. You don't want to be that type of an investor, right? Do the right thing. Always review the seller's mortgage information, right? And review their taxes and homeowners. Why? Because you want to know what their payments are for real, not just a guess. And you also want to make sure that they're not past due, okay? That they might be 2 or 3 years old, and they're up at a sheriff's sale for their tax sale, okay? So just verify all that. Because you also want to run your numbers, right? Because if you're going to go and you're going to rent it out, right? Or as the guru say, do a lease purchase option, which I wouldn't do, but okay. You got to run your numbers. You got to run your numbers. Okay, now at the transaction, I wrote title insurance in here. Why? Because I always want a warranty deed, right? I know that a lot of things won't pop up. They rarely ever do, and I'm not saying they do, but it's nice to have that just in case. Okay, you got to change the homeowner's insurance to a renter's policy for this, but you got to keep it in the seller's name. But if something happens and they find out that it was rented out, and it's an owner-occupied policy, you might have a huge problem trying to collect on that insurance policy. Okay, you should put it in an LLC or a trust. Okay, you don't have to, but if you're going to do it, I would probably do it in a trust. Right, the trust is probably the best way to do it. Right, I would put it in a trust. Okay, but you don't have to. You can put it in your own name. You can put it in an LLC. You can put it in a trust. Right, but the best thing would probably be put it in a trust. All right, the agreement of sale must be signed by everybody who's on the deed. Again, another reason why you pull title. Right, what is owed and who owes it. Make them sign the agreement of sale. Make sure any addendums that you have in there, any contingencies, right, whatever, make sure that they sign that. Make sure you have an authorization to release information to speak on the seller's behalf. In the mortgage business, we call it an authorization to release, right? Actually, that probably should be up here, right, up there. But you need to get an authorization to release information to speak on their behalf, an authorization to release, and get one for everybody that's on the loan. Okay, and then also a limited power of attorney, and the way we call it in the mortgage business is a limited power of attorney specific to the transaction. That's what we say. Okay, because it's not a limited power of attorney for everything. It's a limited power of attorney specific to the transaction. Okay, from all parties on the deed. So make sure you get those things signed. Okay, you want those things signed. Okay, so that's just some of the stuff that you should do. Did I have that on? Did I have it on here? I don't know if I had that on or not. But if I didn't, here it is again, right? Keep it simple, right? If I didn't have it on, keep it simple. Here's your pros. No banks, better rates, shorter term, and you have no risk. All good stuff. Here's your cons. You do have to come out of pocket with some money. Not a lot if you're not paying their equity. You got to worry about the due on sales, the loan say in the seller's name, and they got to qualify. Here's some of the stuff that you should do prior to doing the deal. Pull the title, do a home inspection, find out the fair market value and fair market rent, right? You want to find that out, right? You want to make sure you know that you're going to rent it out for more than what you're bringing in. Review the seller's mortgage and taxes information and at the transaction. Make sure you get title insurance. Just don't do a quick claim deed. Change the homeowner's policy to a renter's policy, but keep it in the seller's name. You could go on as an additional insuree. Additional insuree, okay? Your trust, right? Because if you're going to put it in an LLC or trust, that would be the additional insuree on the insurance clause, okay? Agreement of sale signed by all that are on the deed, and the addendums also signed by everybody. The authorization to release by everybody on the loan. Also the limited power of attorney specific to the transaction in their name, and you do all that stuff, and then you've done your subject to financing deal, and it's not that hard, okay? So keep it simple. So there you go. That's subject to financing, okay? Do I like subject to? Not really. Not really. Why? Because I just don't think it's very good for the seller, right? Is it good for you? Yes, right? Is it good for the seller? Not really. Right, because he's given up his deed, the loan's staying in his name. You got to worry about the due on sale clause. They want to buy a house in a few years, right? If you miss a payment, they're going to get called. It's just, I don't know. I'm not a fan of it, but again, I'm a fan of it if you have the means to refinance and get them out if they call the note due. Okay, so I'm not totally against it. Now, here's the one thing though. Remember this: when it comes to this subject to stuff, right? Let me just tell you this stuff, right? The sellers, right? I watch all the gurus, right? I laugh at some of them, right? How are you going to take care of the equity? Now listen, no matter what the deal is, there's only one thing a seller has in a transaction, and that's their equity. Okay? That's it. That's all the seller has in a deal. Now, if they have no equity, most of them, what do they care, right? They probably wouldn't worry about doing a subject to financing deal. But here's the thing. Here's what you have to ask yourself, right? Are these in abundance going out there and finding a lot of people that'll do subject to? Well, just remember I said in the beginning, ask yourself this question. Would you do the deal, right? So put yourself in a seller's situation. I have a house that I inherited from my grandmother. I don't want it. It's in another state, right? I hire a realtor, they go over there. It needs a little bit of work, but there's some good equity in there. Somebody comes along and says they want to do subject to financing, right? And the way they're going to do it is, they're going to hold a second mortgage. I'm thinking to myself, would I do that? Would I give away the deed to my property, not have any money in my pocket, have pretty much a worthless second mortgage, right? Would I do that? No, I wouldn't, right? Well, I guess I can't use that situation because the loan's not my name. You got a house in your name and you want to get rid of it, right? Would you give somebody that you don't know, because obviously you're a stranger to most of these people, would you give the deed to somebody that you don't know? The loan stays in your name and you got to worry about a due on sale clause. Would you do it? Most people wouldn't, okay? And the thing is, what are you going to do about their equity? Now, I'm going to get to that, right? I'm going to show you what one of my students tried to do at one point, but before they met me. So here's the thing. How are you going to handle the equity situation, right? You have to know how to get it because, listen, most sellers want their equity. But here's another thing that you always need to find out when you're doing any deals. Wants and needs, okay? Wants and needs. You got to find these two things out. What are their wants and what are their needs? Now listen, everybody wants the stars, the sun, and the moon, right? I want 10 Lamborghinis in my driveway. Okay, well, I need a car to get to work. Okay, satisfy the needs. Try to give them what they want, but satisfy the needs. This is what you have to do when it comes to creative financing. Give them the needs. Try to give them what they want, but satisfy the needs. How are you going to handle the equity? I'm going to get to showing you how to structure a deal in a second. Let me finish up the last two things here. Hello, I can't delete that. Okay. My board's going haywire. It's not letting me erase it. Hello. What happened? It's not letting me erase it. What the hell's going on here? Try one more time. All right. Let's just talk about options real quick. Oh, look at that. Now it is, right? Let's talk about options. Now, besides a lease purchase option, options are done a lot in commercial financing. A lot of builders use options. An option is just that. It's an option to buy something, meaning this, okay? Let's just say I'm a builder and I build homes. And I'm going way out and I'm looking at land and I see a nice 10-acre parcel of land. But I don't want to buy it right now because I got other projects going on. But I go to the farmer or the owner and I said, listen, Mr. Owner, I want to buy your 10 acres. He goes, I don't want to sell it right now. I understand. How about we sell it in 5 years from now? I don't know if listen, I'm going to give you $20,000 as an option, right? That I can buy, I can buy this property in 5 years, okay? I can buy the property in 5 years. And he says, okay, well, I'll do that. Now, you have an option on that property. Now, the seller, he cannot go and sell it to anybody else. And you got that at today's prices, unless he negotiates price increases in it, right? But you got it at today's prices. Now, you can sell that option. You can keep the option and sell. Let me give you a perfect example. I have a friend of mine who called me up, a friend of a friend. I don't know the guy, but it's a dear friend of mine. His friend has a piece of land in Virginia Beach on the bay, undeveloped, literally right on the bay, bayfront, boom, right there. And he can't afford it anymore. It's just fake. It's just land. His mother owns it. The father bought the mother and the sister piece of property 55 years ago. The aunt, she's already passed and sold her property. The mother's 102 years old and will not let the kids sell the property. But it costs them, and taking care of the mother, $50,000, $60,000 a year. And they're trying to figure out, how do I get income on this property? My mom won't let me sell it, right? It's just land. I can't do anything with it. They called me, what would you do? I said, I put an option on it. Go to the builders. Say, listen, I'm willing to sell the property once my mother passes. She's 102. So I'll do a 2-year option, right? they want like $2 million for the land. I don't think they're going to get it, but okay, let's say it's $2 million. I'll sell you the land for $2 million. You got to make settlement when my mother passes, so let's say 2 years from now. I want $60,000 a year for 2 years. That money comes off of the purchase price of this option, okay? So now, let's just say I'm the seller, right? So I've got this land. So the builder's going to come in. He's going to give me, I want $60,000, so I want $120,000. So I get $120,000, non-refundable option fee. I sell it for $2 million. Now that 120 comes off the top, right? So now it's whatever, let's say 200,000. Instead of 120, it's 200. I want 100 grand a year, so 200. So now 2 million. Now they owe me $1.8 million in 2 years. Now the builder in 2 years could do a couple. Now I can't sell it to anybody else, and I got to sell it to only that builder, right, or his assignees for 1.8 million because I got the 200 grand as an option. So I can't sell it to anybody else. But now, let's say I'm the builder. I just gave him $200,000. Now, I can go to settlement, buy the land, give him his $1.8 million in 2 years, or I can sell the assignment. Let's say it went up to $3.5 million. The land's worth $3.5 million in the next 2 years. Well, I can just sell my option, right, for $1.5 million. Here, I got it for $2 million. I'm selling it for $3.5 million. I make $1.5 million, right? I could assign it. I could give it away. I could do whatever. But that's how options work. Now, you're not going to use them a whole lot in the situation, but when a situation like this comes up, that's where you can use an option, right? If you're not ready to buy yet, you put an option down on it and you can buy it at any time. And that's what we did with this property down the shore. Or Virginia Beach. That's an option. Okay. This is my favorite. Contract for deed, aka installment sales loan, aka land contract. I've used this, I can't tell you how many times. I mean, my bones using this. It's still in my thing, the best way to buy and sell property today. It's fantastic. We still do deals using this as it is. But before I get into this, right, and trust me, this method is fantastic. I usually don't give a lot of information out on YouTube and stuff like that. I usually save it for class and my live in-person seminars. But I'm gonna do a little bit tonight. But before I get to it, I just want to show you one thing. When we talk about doing deals, no matter how it is, a lot of people like this subject to financing, I know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you just a little bit how they have to be structured as far as giving the seller his equity, okay? So let me show you a deal. Let me show you a deal that my students said they tried to do, and I kind of laughed at them, and they get laughed at. So let me show you. So $500,000 for this 5 unit. Okay. So there's a 5 unit for sale. Okay. My student already purchased the sister property. Right? They own this already. Bought it for a couple $100,000, and then they saw this one go up for sale. Okay? And they wanted to buy it, but they didn't have any money. They didn't know me at the time either. Okay? So the seller owed $300,000 on it. And I said, well, I already know how you tried to do this. You don't even have to tell me. I already know how you tried to structure this. And I guarantee the guy laughed at you. And he saw me at a seminar that I was doing. I was just doing a quick little seminar. And he says, no, he didn't laugh at me. And then later on, he became my student, and we talked about it. I said, okay, you want to tell me the deal, or can I guess at how it happened? He said, yeah, go ahead and guess. Okay, so here's how he tried. Now, you have to remember, he already told me he had no money to buy the house. So how would you structure a deal when you have no money and you're trying to do this deal using subject to, because that's all he knew at the time, right? Or that's what somebody showed him, okay? So the way you would have to do it is, first off, you take this $300,000 and you're taking that subject to financing, okay? So you're taking those payments over. Now, obviously, he must have ran the numbers and made sure his cash flow was good, and he had his numbers and said, now, what are we going to do about the $200,000 in equity that's left, okay? Well, there's only a couple things you can do. If you don't have it to give it to them, what can you do? Well, you can get a partner, and they have it, right? But they don't want a partner, so that was out. A hard money lender is not going to lend you money and go into the second lien position, especially behind a subject to. Maybe a private lender might do that. I seriously doubt it, right? I know a hard money lender won't. Private lender may. You might talk them into it if you're good friends with them, okay? Or you could try and have the seller take back a second. Seller second, seller take back, seller hold back, seller's holding the mortgage, seller's holding the paper, however you want to say it. You got lingo, you got to have all the lingo in the world. He holds the second, he holds the paper, he's going to hold the mortgage, he's going to hold the note. You can say it however you want to say it, but basically the seller's going to take back a note. And I said, okay, let me guess. You did $200,000 at 10% interest only, 5-year balloon. Okay, what do I mean by that? Okay. So $200,000 loan, you're going to give them 10% interest only, so there's no principal reduction. And in 5 years, you got to pay them completely off, and you're going to hopefully go and refinance it. And he says, man, you're very close. We offered him 8% interest only. Okay. And I think he offered him a 7-year balloon, something like that. But it was very close to that. Okay. And I said, what happened? He just thanked me and let me out of his way. Okay, now, remember what I said earlier on, put yourself in the seller's shoes. Put yourself as this seller. You've got a 5-unit worth $500,000. You only owe $300,000 on it. You put it up for sale. You're expecting $200,000 in your pocket minus your cost. Okay? You got somebody coming along saying, yeah, I'll take it subject to. Meaning you're going to sign the deed over to these people. Now you know them vaguely because they bought your other property. And sign the deed over, the loan staying in my name, the $300,000 staying in my name. And then the $200,000 I'm going to get a note for, right? So if they stop paying, what the hell's going to happen? How am I going to get it back? I got to go through the foreclosure process. What a nightmare. Would you do that? No. No, you wouldn't do that. So why would that seller do it? They didn't do it. They didn't do it. So what did I say? I said, listen, and this is where I'm going to get to. If you would have done this, let's take the same situation. Let's take the same situation. Same situation, okay? And do this. So you got $500,000, okay? You negotiate that to whatever, right? Maybe 480, 470, 450, whatever you negotiated, do it. And do it under a contract for deed, okay? Now, the way that that would work is very simple. The seller is going to keep his deed. Okay? He's going to keep his deed. You, on the other hand, we're going to do a contract. Let's just say let's say we get it for $450. Means there's no realtors involved. $450,000. We'll say 5% interest only, right? And we'll say a 3-year balloon. Right? We could say a 2-year balloon. We could even say a 1-year balloon. Okay? Now, the seller keeps his deed, but you've got equitable ownership. Ownership. You get all the tax write-offs. You basically own the property. It's kind of like buying a car, where you buy a car, but the bank holds the title. It's the same thing, right? This is also called a master lease as well, right? If you want to call it a master lease. But now he keeps his deed. So really, you're not really going to get a due on, they're not going to worry about the due on sale clause, because all you're doing is basically subordinate financing. And now, after a certain period, you can go and you can refinance and pay him off. Now, if there's not enough equity in there to do it, then you could pay him the majority of the money, and he could hold back a small second. Okay? It's a lot better. Now, I know I'm holding a lot of details out on this little thing, but I'm just saying, if you just changed it up from a subject to a contract for deed, this here can get done, and you could do this literally with no money down and no money out of your pocket, because you're not recording anything and you're not doing anything, right? You're taking stuff, you're going to take stuff over, but he's going to get payments, but he keeps his deed. But he doesn't have to do any repairs or any maintenance or anything. I would do a 12-month balloon and pay him off in 12 months, okay? But you got to worry about the equity position. How much can you borrow versus how much he wants? But that's a negotiated thing. But instead of him taking a $200,000 second, he might only have to take a $30,000 second. and he gets the majority of his money up front. Not up front like immediately, but in 12 months. Okay? So if he would have given him those two, if you would have looked at those two options, obviously the contract for deed is a much better option. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start doing some live seminars, and I'm going to go into teaching you how to structure each and every one of these methods. I'm going to teach you how to do subject to. I'm going to teach you how to do a lease purchase. I'm going to teach you how to do an assumable loan. I'm going to teach you how to do an option, right? And I'm going to give you different ways of structuring it, different methods, okay? So just remember, creative financing is a fancy word for no banks. This seller is going to help you control it, maintain it, or finance it for you. But remember this, sellers don't have a lot of patience. They usually want their money right away. Now, not all the sellers. You might get lucky once in a blue moon. Seller might let you do a purchase money mortgage for the full 30 years. But I've only seen a couple of them in my 40 years of investing, okay? They usually will do creative financing on short term, 3 years and under. So that means you have to be able to qualify for a loan, right? You need to know the 2+2 methods. And that's what we do at the Golden Triangle Academy. We teach you all of these different methods and how to structure all these deals. So if you're interested in learning all this stuff, all you got to do is text the word GOLDEN, 21,000. That's my cell phone. Call me up, talk to me. I'll talk to you for free, for hours. If you have a subject to finance deal you need help with, I'll help you do it for free. I'll give you any information you need. I'll talk to the seller for you. I'll help you structure it. I want to see you get a deal done, right? If you want to learn how to do all this stuff for not a very expensive amount of money, again, $59 a month. I'm going to have all of this stuff online. It's not there yet. I'm working on all the videos. But I'm going to have videos, all step-by-step instructions on all of this stuff. And not just this, but also if you want to learn the BRR method, if you want to learn foreclosures, short sales. This is what I've done my whole entire life. It's been nothing but this. This is all that I've done. I've done thousands and thousands of transactions. This is my whole life, since I've been like 19, 18 years old. This is all I know. I don't know anything else. I can golf, play a little hockey, right? Other than that, this has been my whole life. My whole job is this. And now I'm teaching it. And I'm helping others, and I'm not charging thousands and thousands of dollars to do it. A lot of stuff I give away for free. I don't want to see people get ripped off, okay? And if you need any help with any of this stuff, I'll help you. Just pick up the phone and call me, right? So remember, creative financing, it's just there's no banks involved up front. You're going to need them sooner or later, all right? Because you're going to have to refinance and pay the seller off. Even if you do a subject to, I don't care, right? Your goal with a subject to, unless you got a low interest rate, is to try and get that seller paid off. Now, again, if you got a low interest rate, you're going to try and keep it as long as you can. But if the note gets called, or he wants to go buy a house, or she wants to, or they want to buy a house, and they don't qualify, they need it paid off, you should be able to take care of them, right? Because you want to be that guy. You don't want to be an investor that, is a scumbag investor. You want to be the good guy, right? You want to be the win-win situation, help everybody out. That's what it's about, win-win. And the more win-win deals you do, the more people are going to refer you, okay? Don't be that guy that gets a bad reputation out there. So that's your introduction to creative financing. I don't really see any questions, so I'm going to leave it at that. Again, if anybody needs help with any of this stuff, I'll gladly help you with anything. And it doesn't even have to be this creative financing. If you got some other deal you're trying to get done, listen, I've been doing it a long time. I'll help you, okay? If I can't do it, nobody else can certainly do it. I can tell you that. So, so that's the introduction to creative financing, all right? You're just using the seller to help you control, maintain, or finance the property until you pay it off, and then you become, that. So there's your intro. Now, again, like I said, I'm going to do some videos in breaking all this stuff down into its minutiae, all right? I'm going to show you how to structure them. I'm going to show you how to write the contracts. I'm going to show you all that stuff here on YouTube, all right? So thanks for coming along. I appreciate you coming. I don't see any questions, so I guess nobody's got any questions. So if you need anything, like I said, just text the word GOLDEN to the number 21,000. That's my digital business card. It's got my cell phone on it. Right now it's playing tunes. I think Johnny Cash, Ring of Fire is playing. So I'll help anybody do anything with real estate. I'll gladly help you. All right. If you need to know how to structure a deal, you need a contract, you need something, just call me. I'll get it to you. All right. So thanks for coming. I appreciate it. And again, I apologize for not having a lot of meetups lately. Again, my mom has been very ill. She's in hospice care. She doesn't have much longer to go. It was bad this weekend. So I haven't been that active in the real estate. So I figured I could do some of these live streams at nighttime. So I'll do some more of them. And then as soon as things happen with my mom and my life goes on, I'll start doing more live events and start helping you guys out a lot more. So if there's anything you need, feel free to give me a holler. Have a wonderful night. Go Birds.